screen now because that's important. Helen, if you'll come and join me here.
We get your handheld if you prefer to do it up front. We can do that if you'd rather do that.
It's okay. If you're going to record it, I'll just do it here. Helen, come with me here. We're going to have an introduction. While she's coming up, I wanted to, first of all, introduce, for those of you who may not have known our background, for 23 years we did family life seminars for the Florida Conference. We have over 200 churches when we were there. So we were in a different church almost every week. And then we did camp meetings all over. When we got laid off in 2003, we got invited everywhere across the United States doing camp meetings here and yonder in Florida and back in Hawaii and all places in between. And one of the things that we found very interesting was how humor helps family life. And we spent a week or so every year for 7 years doing Florida Slick Academy, talking about things that make relationships work and things that either hinder or conflict relationships. Needless to say, when the statistics are out, it's about 50% of the marriages.
This is the third in a series.
Fail within the first 3 to 6 years of marriage. And I have often asked the question, how soon into the marriage did you realize you had a problem? Many couples. One lady said, as soon as the organ played, "Here Comes the Bride," she said, "I knew I ought not to do this." So, as you can tell, we got time, Helen, if you'll come. It's only 20 minutes. You can tell Helen and I come from two different cultural backgrounds. I grew up in North Carolina on a tobacco farm. Helen grew up in Hawaii on a plantation or sugarcane plantation. And back during the Vietnam era, I was eating at the Fort DeRussy military eating place where the people came back from R&R from Vietnam. Of course, I was in the Navy and on a different menu. But I saw this beautiful young lady working there, and she would never give me her phone number. Never, never. And I kept eating and coming back. And finally, she did slip me her phone number on a piece of paper, napkin, and that was the beginning of the story. So we came from two different cultural backgrounds. And just a long story short, I loved buttermilk growing up on a farm. I hated rice, but I'll let Helen tell you the rest of the story, and then we'll share this little video with you as part of what we used to use when we'd go to a church in the afternoon.
Well, you might guess, just looking at me, that I ate rice every day, just about, at least twice a day, sometimes even for breakfast. But I loved rice, had never had buttermilk. So when we were out eating, he saw buttermilk on the menu, so he got all excited and he ordered the buttermilk. And I had never had any buttermilk, never knew what it would taste like or anything. But when the waitress brought it to the table, I looked at it, and it looked good to me. It was thick, it looked rich, and it looked like vanilla milkshake. So I thought I would taste it. This was going to be a new experience for me. I thought I would taste it. And I did taste it. And let me tell you what, it did not taste like vanilla milkshake. It was sour, it was awful, I thought it was rotten, and I thought, this man eats strange foods. But I realized the reason I didn't like it is because I had never tasted it before, and I was expecting it to be different. But when I realized that buttermilk is supposed to be sour, I did learn to like it. And so even now, every once in a while, I will have buttermilk.
And I have learned to like rice. We have it 2 or 3 times a week. But we've been doing this for so many years, and we've done over 30,000 individuals where we do the personality assessment and spiritual gifts. We take a very secular instrument called the 16 Personality Factor Inventory, and we look at it through the eyeglasses of Christianity. If this is where the average person should be, where should the Christian be? And even more so, where should an Adventist be in terms of personality traits? So the Institute for Personality and Ability Testing, IPAT.com, IPAT.com. You can actually go online, and that's the Institute. That's what they minister all over the world in over 22 languages. So we're just licensed with them so that we can actually do this for a seminar in a church in a Sabbath afternoon. The larger the church, the more difficult it is to accommodate everybody who wants to do the inventory. And I always tell them there's no right or wrong answer except for 13 little questions. The rest of them is where you respond to all the different scenarios or situations. And then it runs through our computer. We have our own computer program where we can process these in a matter of minutes. And again, it generates 6 pages of information that tells you more about yourself than you ever wanted to know. And I remember the first time I brought mine home from the seminary, because they give all the seminarians these inventories. And then they tell you whether or not you're really going to be cut out for ministry or not. But I've noticed that that doesn't work either, because some of the ones that Dr. Chalmers used to suggest might look for another trade, those have become the most successful. And sometimes God works through miracles through sometimes the least likely, you'd think, to be successful in the ministry. But I brought my test home for my printout anyway for Helen to look at. And I was just very upset because I didn't like what it said. I put it on the table at lunchtime and I said, read that stupid thing. She read through it. She just kind of sat there and I said, well, that's you all right. Now that hurt even worse. And so we've encountered these things, and I always tell people, even though you see something you don't really like there's some suggestion that you tend to be self-centered. You know, something like that, it could be either good or bad depending on how you look at it. And dominance, dominance is a factor that's good for leadership, but you push dominance too high, what do you have? Dictatorship. The opposite would be humility. And humility is a spiritual gift in itself, but you push humility too far to the left, and you got doormat syndrome. And so we found that this little video, and I shortened it up, so it's only about 20 minutes. Why women are weird and men are strange. Now, Helen renamed that. Why women are wonderful and men are weird. But anyway, it's kind of a humorous but spiritual look at how men and women differ and how we look at things differently in life. So, Lee, if you do that, we'll see it, and thank you much.
So 4 films coming from the Long Beach Center Theater. Tim's topic today, why are women so weird and men so strange? Let's join Tim Timmons and the Maximum Marriage Seminar from Long Beach, California.
The story goes that 2 men went up to heaven thinking they were the only 2 to go, and found out that that night all the men in the world were caught up into heaven at once. They were set up in one great big room, and in that room there were 2 signs at the end of this long, long hallway. One sign said, "The head." The other sign said, "The henpecked." Every man who had ever lived were to line up behind one of these 2 signs, whichever represented their lives. All of the men that evening that had ever lived lined up behind the sign that said, "The henpecked." One little man, 5'4", was standing behind the sign that said, "The head." He was a scrawny-looking guy, and the reporter who was covering the event, reporters are everywhere, couldn't wait to get up to him to find out, what is it that's going on? Why in the world are you here? Out of all the men who've ever lived, here you are, standing here behind the sign that says "The head." He said, "How did you get here? I mean, look at these men. Look at them." It goes on with an infinite line of people. All these men, never would they think of being over here? Here you are, the one man, and you're a scrawny-looking guy. Here you are saying you're the head. How did you get here in this line? The guy scratched his head and says, "Well, I don't know. My wife just told me to stand over here." There's probably more confusion per square inch in marital relationship concerning what is the head of the home and what is the helpmate. Who is this person that's supposed to be in charge, so to speak? And it's been misinterpreted. We've made it a dictator doormat scene. We put the man as the big honcho and the woman as the one who's supposed to come after. But how do you get these people together? You see, men and women are very, very different. I believe that women are basically weird. I think that about half of us here would vote that way. If alone in a room. If alone. The other half would vote that men are very strange. But how do you get this strange man and this weird woman together like a lock and a key, coming together, fitting and working, functioning properly? Really the one who's in charge. I don't like that word, in charge. You see, man has this need to control his woman. Okay? Now, none of you men would admit that right now, but we're going to have a secret ballot here in a moment. But most have this need to control their woman. Well, that isn't going to make it. And that's why headship comes on with, I'm the head, and I call the shots here, and you will now respond and agree with me, you know, things like that. That doesn't cut it. That's not what it's all about. Headship means you're really the buck stopper. That's where the buck stops. Headship means you're ultimately responsible for everything in that home. Cleaning out the potties, getting the meals together, making sure that food got purchased, making sure the house is clean, the front yard, the backyard, the side yard. All of these things you are responsible for. You are responsible for everything. Now, how do you feel with your new promotion? I don't like that myself, but you're ultimately responsible that things get done and that the marriage takes place and that the home is actually staying together and that you move on in life. The helpmate is a completer, one who supports that headship for the sake of oneness. You see, the whole thing is revolving around this word authority. Now, authority is not better than. Authority is a neutral vehicle to get things done. I was driving down the street not long ago, and I was zooming quite quickly, and a man stood up, put his hand up just like this, and I stopped. Not because I thought he was better than I was, not because I thought he was going to beat up my body or something like that, or he was going to yell at me. It's because he had a little badge right here. That impressed me. That's called authority. It's a neutral vehicle to get things done so that we don't have chaos. That's what it's all about. You can't have a two-headed monster running your home. You must have somebody ultimately as the buck stopper. But that person, the head of this home, is not one who makes all the decisions independently. He must consult with his wife and get everything out of her that she has to say, because she won't say it very often. She will drop clues, and you've got to get rid of these clues and find out in English what this means, you see? That's part of headship. And headship then is two people making a decision together, but he is responsible that the decision gets made. You see the difference? So it's not one person lording it over anybody. It's not a dictator doormat routine, but it's two people coming into this dynamic oneness that we talk about. It's two people that must make decisions together. The man basically has one gigantic responsibility. If I were to put it all down into one word, the man's responsibility is to cherish his wife. It's to cherish her. The woman wants cherishing. She needs to be cherished. She needs to be cared for. My wife can come from the back bedroom as if a nuclear blast just took place in the back bedroom. She'll come out kind of droopy, falling apart about what just happened. She'll sit next to me on the couch. She will tell me her problem in the back bedroom. I, in all of my wisdom and knowledge and vast counseling experience, 7 years of Greek, 3.5 years of Hebrew, give her the answer to her problem in the back bedroom. Now she turns on me. She doesn't want an answer to her problem in the back bedroom. No woman wants an answer. All she wants to know is, do you care? Huh? Do you care the nuclear blast just took place in the back bedroom? That's all I want to know. Because if you care, then I'll go back and clean it up. But if you don't care, there will be another nuclear blast right here in the living room. How many have heard rumors of that happening? Yeah, it happens. They want to be cherished. They want to be cared for. You cherish that woman, you care for that woman, and I'll tell you what, she will blossom like a rose. She will become everything you've ever wanted her to be. You see, the man is told in this biblical game plan that I'm using, he's told to be the lover. He's to love his wife sacrificially, to give and give and give and give and give and give and give until there's no time left for him. Poor baby. Anything like that before. I found that I just wanted to give and give. For the longest time, I lived with 3 women, my wife and the 2 girls. And I just want to give and 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 give. I got hooked on loving sacrificially. And you get ready to go someplace, and the kids come out, and they got to kiss you through the wing of the car, and they got to kiss you on both sides. I didn't get to do both sides. Well, you do both sides now, and you got to both sides, and you get them all through there. I mean, gee, I loved it. I began to understand what sacrificial love was all about. It's giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. Sacrificial love is something that you men need to get hooked on. Because as you get hooked on this, you will find that the things you wanted to control or change about your mate, they don't need changing. As a matter of fact, they change because you're feeding this beautiful rose in a very, very significant way. There's another thing about cherishing your mate. In cherishing your mate, you're to love your mate as you love yourself. In other words, you need to get on her team. Your wife, in order to feel cherished, in order to feel that she is cherished and loved and understood by you, must sense that you are on her team. You men also, you've got to do something else in cherishing. You must love your wife without expectations. You must love her without expectations. You know how you get, you're at the office and you think, I'm going to take some flowers home and I will overwhelm her. It's not her birthday, it's not anniversary, it's nothing but pure love. I'm just going to go by the florist and get something for $8 or $9 and take it home and just overwhelm her. And so you get to the florist and you realize that flowers have gone up since you last bought, and there's nothing for $8 or $9 except the leftover wilted things there in the back, and they don't guarantee those till you get home. And so now you're up to $16, $17 for this little plant. But you have it there next to you, and you are driving home. I mean, you are on your way, and you're so excited because you know that she's going to go berserk as soon as she sees these flowers. And you take the old behind-the-back trick, which is not a good move, by the way, all right? You want it out in front. I mean, come home tooting your horn if you can, and bring it right out in front, and let her have some time to think this up for a while, what she's going to say. Because what happens many times is you come, bring the flowers behind your back, pull them out, say, hey, honey. She takes the flowers, says, hey, these are really great, and she puts them on the dining room table, and then she says, let me tell you what happened today. Johnny broke his foot. One of her kids was sent home from school. I mean, I think it was a problem. And I know, I'm sure it was a bad day, but what'd you think of the flowers? Huh? There's something else, I'll tell you. Yeah, they're nice, honey. But let me tell you what else happened. Our dog rooted out all the flowers next door, just rooted out all their flowers next door, just unbelievable stuff. And my sister's coming in, your sister's coming in, terrific. What do you think of the flowers, honey? Did you see those flowers? I'm home early, brought the flowers. You see them. Get this straight, men. I mean, this is straight right from the horse's mouth who's been there in counseling. You get this straight. Your wife will never appreciate you as much as you think you ought to be appreciated. You got it? She will never appreciate you as much as you think you ought to be appreciated. I didn't say as much as you deserve. I said as much as you think you ought to be appreciated. You see, we love with expectation. What you need to do is love her in spite of the reaction. You just keep loving. I can just hear this guy rolling over at night, his last move. His last move might look something like this or sound like this. Honey, what did you think of the flowers? Cost me $16.50. Had to put it on master charge, as a matter of fact. We're going to be paying for those for 3 more months. Hey, don't let her response mess you up. Don't do that. Love her and love her and love her sacrificially. That's what she needs. She needs that cherishing. Another angle for the man is that you're to live with your wife in an understanding way. You need to be a student of your wife. You need to figure out what makes her tick and ticked, which are two very different deals. And when you don't know the difference, you get into a heap of trouble. In the biblical game plan, it says, live with her in an understanding way. Be a student of your wife. Try to understand where she's coming from, what she needs, what you can give to her. When I was writing my first book, which I thought would be my last book, but it was my first book, and I was working so hard I had to have it in by March 5th. And in this time, it was stress. I mean, for 10 days, I had 10 days left. I was writing night and day. I didn't give much attention to my wife at all, and as a matter of fact, I gave none. And she was just supposed to understand. And I was to do this. I'd read a paragraph, and she'd say, oh, bestseller, bestseller. That was her move. And this sounds so great, Tim. And then I would also then get a glass of tea from her, and she'd fix the iced tea. And I noticed about 7 or 8 days into this that her oohs and ahs were not as ooey and ahy as they were before. And the tea wasn't so swift either. And it was that last glass of iced tea that she handed me that was just like, it was the attitude. It was like, hope you choke on an ice cube. You know what I mean? I'm not intelligent, but I'm not a dummy either. And I began to pick some things up here. This woman is upset. There was a clue, you see, and I picked one up. I was so excited. And I got the message that she's upset, but I couldn't stop because I had to get this crazy book done. I had to get it done. So I worked hard, and I was working but I noticed that she was falling apart more and more. And finally, I sat down with her. I said, honey, I know what the problem is. And she said, you do? And I said, yes. I said, it's me. Now, you know how women respond at this point? They always move into a high pitch at this point, especially if they're moving toward tears. You say it's me, and they say, ah! That means that's right. Count on it. That's true. That's straight. But that's all it took, is for me to recognize that my contribution to the problem was so major that it was my problem, not hers. You also need to be a problem solver. When your wife brings to you a problem, you need to be thinking about how to solve it. And the first step is to show her that you cherish her, not just the answer to the problem, but that you cherish her, that you care for her. And as you do that, don't get the attitude that it's your problem. You dug the hole, let me help you in it. But you got to get in the hole with her and help her figure out how to get out of this hole she's in. Whoever dug it doesn't make any difference. The point is she's in a hole. So don't throw dirt on top of her. I find that the woman must realize that the man's basic need, I'm talking basic now, the basic need of the man is he must be respected. He needs your respect more than he needs anything else that you can give him. You can do all kinds of other things, but you must respect him. Now, in doing this, I find that women have a little syndrome that Solomon, the great writer of the Proverbs, talked about. He talked about a dripping syndrome. I call it resistance. It says that there's nothing more annoying than a woman who is contentious, continually resisting and resisting and resisting. Not respecting, but resisting. It says in the Proverbs, it's like a dripping of rain on a tin roof, just keeps dripping and dripping and dripping and dripping and dripping. Could drive you crazy. Let's just say that we're getting ready to go out to dinner. We get everybody in the van. And I say, honey, where would you like to go eat? I don't even have to finish this one, do I? I heard 8 men go, Where would you like to go eat? And what does she say? I don't care. You decide. Now, if you believe that, my friend, I got some land in South Mississippi I'd like to talk to you about later. There's no way that that's the right answer. She doesn't mean that. Don't listen to what she says. Listen to what she's saying between what she says. Because what you end up doing is you play this game and you say, okay, let's see, let's go, I'll tell you what, let's go down here to Mac's Coffee Shop just around the corner. She says, I thought you wanted to eat out. Okay, you don't want to go to Mac's Coffee. Let's go to, wow, you know, down here at the hotel, they got that buffet that just, you can eat all you eat, you know, you can eat all you want, and it's not that expensive. Well, you come away from their stuff. I don't think we want to go there, do we? No, I'm sure we didn't. I just was, why don't we go, let's go over here to Tico Taco. Tico Taco? We were there last night. You don't want to go to Tico? No, it's okay. You make the decision. It's fine with me. Really, it's fine with me. You get so desperate that you take the whole issue and throw it back in the van to the kids. Now you're getting a Big Mac, a Del Meat burrito. You're doing it all now. Everything. You got to stop everywhere. Hey, don't let her get into this. Don't let her get in. When she says, I don't care, you decide, you're in a heap of trouble. All right? Stop the car. Turn the bloody car off and say, hold it. I need you right now to care with me. We will both care together about where we are going to eat. Because if we don't care together right now, then nobody's going to care in a few minutes, you see? That's part of the dripping and dripping and drip. Could drive you crazy. Let's say you're going to go over to your good friend's house. You've been there a million times. And you decide on the way, it's after dinner, you're going to take your wife by an ice cream parlor and get her something to ice cream cone. But you don't tell her. It's a surprise, right? We men are big on that, and the women aren't for some reason. Seems like every time I come up with a surprise, we're going to go do this. Oh, great. And I realized that there wasn't a whole lot of excitement about that. So here's what you do. You get to the stop sign, and the people live to the right, okay? But you take a left to the ice cream parlor. What does the wife say? She says, where are you going? Now, that's not bad. That's not bad in and of itself. Just notice the wording that she uses here. Where are you going? She's not saying, where are we going? What she means, that being interpreted means, where are you taking me? You've kidnapped my body now. We have not contracted for this direction, and you are taking me away. But you know, that's not even as much of the dripping problem as what she says next. Before she breathes, she moves into another barrage. Where are you going? I can't believe it. You haven't been here all night. I've noticed at the table you sat there and grunted every time somebody said something to you. You've been out at the office. Your body's here, but you're not here. You're just kind of mumbling around all over the place. You haven't been here. We've been to these people's house 1.5 million times. They live back there to the right, and you took a left, the exact opposite direction. I can't believe it. Dripping and dripping. You know what the man's thinking now? I may get an ice cream cone, but she's not. And cherishing. There's an aspect to this respecting that I think it's great. What it is it's reflecting. There's a biblical verse that says, the woman is the glory of the man. And the word glory means to reflect positively. To reflect positively. The idea is that she's to reflect her husband in a positive sort of way to the rest of the world. Now, I hear women all the time say, well, I'll tell you, Harry isn't going to go. You think I can get him to go to something like that? You must be out of your mind. You don't know Harry. Now, that's not reflecting positively. I've heard women in meetings saying, well, I'll tell you, my cross that I'm bearing, it's the man I live with, but I think I can suffer through. Hey, that's not reflecting positively. And a lot of the times, you women do not have anything to reflect positively because you haven't given him a clue to what to do to meet your needs. We go back to that hidden agenda. I got a need. You don't know what it is. then somebody's dying on you, you see? Hey, you want to win? You want to win big? Men, don't try to control your woman. Cherish her. Cherish her with everything you've got in you. Sacrificially love her, care for her, be sensitive to her. Women, don't try to restructure this man. Don't try to change him. Respect him. Reflect him. Get on his team. That will change your man. And respecting and cherishing will change your marriage. Now, there's a very important question here. Who must go first? Who starts? How many were thinking that while I've been speaking? Yeah, I can just feel it out there. Well, if she'd do it, I'd do it, I'll tell you that. Who goes first? I got the answer. I'm going to give it to you now. You're not going to like it. Here's the answer. The person, the only person who is to start first, the only person is you. Nobody else can. You must go first. If you're a man, you start cherishing. If you're a woman, you start respecting. No matter what they do to you, keep coming back with your MO. It's very simple. Not easy, but simple. Easily understood, hard to do. You see what a lot of us are waiting for? We're waiting for a miracle. That's right. We're waiting for a miracle to do it for us. We're looking for a formula. Probably some of you came today looking for some kind of formula that you're going to just get, that's maximum marriage come out. Hey, I've been doing maximum marriage for years. And you know what my wife says every once in a while? She says, you know, I'm maxed out. I understand. Hey, I got it. There was a faith healer. He had his audience so whooped up. I mean, he was moving them. And he moved through the audience to find 2 people to heal that evening. He found a guy out there, both legs mangled up, and he had 2 crutches, and he said, what's your name? And he said, my name's Roger. He said, Roger, get up there behind the curtain. God's going to heal you tonight. Roger got up there behind the curtain. People were going wild. All right, we're going to get him. And so he found somebody else, and he said, what's your name? And this guy said, Harold. He said, what? He said, Harold. He said, Harold, do you have a speech impediment? Yes. He said, well, God's going to heal you tonight. Get up there behind the curtain, and he'll make you talk, Harold. Harold says, thank you. And he got back up there. The audience got quiet, so still you could hear a pin drop anywhere. And the healer yelled out, all right, Roger, throw out that right crutch. God just healed your right side. And shoo, this crutch flew out from underneath the curtain. Incredible thing. The people started moving into the aisles now with excitement. He said, okay, Roger, throw out the left crutch. God just healed your left side. Shoo. Crutch flew out from underneath the curtain. I mean, people were moving toward the platform. And finally he said, all right, Harold, say something. Harold, say something. God has just made you speak clearly. And Harold said, Roger fell down. You know what I think? I think a lot of the marital problem in trying to put marriages back together, I think a lot of you people are waiting for somebody to pull off a miracle or a formula when you've got to do it yourself. Men, don't try to control your wife. Cherish her. Women, don't try to restructure your husband. Respect him. Don't wait for a miracle. Do it yourself.
As you may have noticed, those were just little clips out of the whole presentation, and we want to give credit to Maximum Marriage with Dr. Tim Timmons out in Long Beach. We have at times used the series, but those were just little clips that kind of introduce you to what he presents. The 11 Battlegrounds of Marriage. There's about 4 other different programs that we try to incorporate when we do the Family Life Seminar, along with the personality assessments and things like this in terms of spiritual gifts. So the 2 things we want to remember, women, what do they need? To be cherished and men need to be respected. We had a call that came to the office in Orlando years ago when we were doing seminars at our youth camp and cruises and some of the other things. And it was a 16-year-old girl from Miami. And I used to get all the calls where they didn't know where to send them in the different departments. But this girl, 16 years old, had called from Miami. And she said, Pastor Bryant, I understand you and your wife did the marriage seminar about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And she said, I want to tell you something. My mom and dad have not been the same since they went to your retreat and came home. What used to be fighting and fussing and arguing, it's been a pleasure to be around Mom and Dad. So that's a little sample of what we try to do when we do family life. I hope in the future we can do some of the more programs here. So it'll soon be time for our 2 o'clock meeting, but any questions on what you just saw or heard? If not, we'll wait for the next meeting.